pretty interesting.
Yeah, but they got a fair bit avoided, you know.
We're gonna go ahead and get started now.
I know, yeah.
We have a little bit of a change today. Our third speaker that's gonna be here can't make it. Matt Krause.
Oh, man.
Yeah, can't make it.
I had a big.
I know, you were gonna get all those questions answered today on that,
I
but
want to ask him, how much, in the name of transparency, how much does the Vatican fund the Commissioner's Court of Tarrant County?
The
that'd
Vatican.
been a good one. That'd been a good question. He's coming back though. He'll be making it sometime. So we're gonna shuffle around a little bit and let's get going with our opening prayer.
Recording in progress.
You ready yet?
Heavenly Father, we just invite you here. We just ask that your divine wisdom and your knowledge, we ask for your knowledge and your wisdom to navigate through these times that seem to be growing darker. And Father, we just pray that that fear does not overcome, and that we just stay strong and courageous with you. Father, and I just pray that each and every one here knows your presence, and that you're not out to destroy, kill, or steal. That is the other kingdom. And that you're not the one that are throwing people into prisons and doing these things, Father. We pray that your love just prevails, and that it just guides us, and that your spirit just leads us. So we just ask for your protection and peace, and that we're able to walk in love with one another, and that we are able to learn from each other, where each one of us has a part. And thank these things in your son's name, Kasha, Jesus. Amen.
Right there. Right there. Yeah. Yeah, the speaker sit over with.
Okay, you want to sit in that chair?
Look at
What we're
that.
gonna do, Steve, we're gonna have the scriptures, but he's gotta go, and then after he gets through, we can do the scriptures. Okay. Leonard, we need you to sit right over here, because there's an audience on Zoom that's gonna look at you.
California. Yeah, right here.
Okay, Leonard, let's hear about your trip to Austin. Hopefully it was some success.
Okay, let's make sure I'm seeing here if they want to see. Quick review, I'm Leonard Lang. I still consult on regulatory matters in California, but I'm not going to live there to suffer from it. Got here in August of 21. I deal with the so-called sustainability programs in California. And the biggest one is the bottle bill. It started in 1987, and I have been heavily involved and immersed in that, directing lobbyists, involved in legislation, writing regulation, opposing bad regulation. I've been all involved. So a couple months ago, I got an email from a guy in California that says, there's a bill here in Texas opposing a bottle bill. So I look it up and I take a copy. It's 8 pages long, and it's not about what it said, it's about what it didn't say. And it was taking two separate policies out of California. One is redemption. That's where you put a bounty on the container, you get it back if you recycle it, or if you give it away, somebody else can get the bounty back. That's the foundation of the California system, and for a while it worked pretty good. The second is what is known as the Extended Producer Responsibility Program, where the government decides to create a program, but they're not going to manage it. They're going to assign that to somebody else. In Texas legislature, they called it a consortium. In the policy area, they're called extended producer responsibility or producer responsibility organization. So let's say a bottle bill were to come to Texas, and so Anheuser-Busch and Coca-Cola and all the big guys have their bottles and cans being sold in the state, getting the bounty, and they're gonna manage the payment out of the program. This is an idea that's come from the left, especially the environmental left. And there was a bill maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and I was in the Capitol, and I heard a Democratic senator say, we want the markets for study for recycling, and we want to get a report from the experts, meaning the bureaucrats. Well, I knew the agency, and I knew that the experts weren't experts, although many of them had names as called scientists. They take environmental studies at the Cal State schools, and they come out scientists, and they come out to tell you what to do and how to run your business. So the bill I heard, the senator came in, he wanted a study, and he said, I want to hear from the experts, meaning those bureaucrats that are going to complete this study. And I'm sitting there saying, well, I know the agency, I know there's no experts there, and I also know that the agency is in chaos. Nothing good is going to come out of it.
Was that the Senator Kelly Hancock that said that?
Hold on.
Okay.
That bill was not the bill I went to go here and testify against. That was one I found the day before I went. That was Kelly Hancock's bill. Kelly Hancock is a Republican senator. 46% of his district is in Tarrant County. Show of hands, who lives in Tarrant County here? Who lives in Dallas? Colin? Okay. Okay, so we're around here. Hancock's district is also outside of Tarrant County, so I'm not sure what area that was. But he came up and he touted the need for a study. He said that Texas Environmental Commission had done a report 2 years ago. That means I gotta go read that if I want to become a real expert on this. But since I didn't have much notice, I just related the story when I got there to testify, saying, you know, I saw this happen in California. The senator said we're going to have experts do the report. I knew they weren't experts. I knew the department was chaos. I knew it wouldn't work. And this won't work. So I got my testimony done, and I said, this is progressivism, and what happens is everything leads to getting progressively worse. That was the first bill. On that bill, not only, if you look at his testimony, Hancock's, it's filled with, shall I say, misinformation. It's for the justification of this. But to testify on behalf, there was a recycler out of Iowa who was pushed to go there by Susan Collins. Susan Collins, by training, is an engineer, and she runs an organization that she bought years ago called the Container Recycling Institute, and she considers herself authority, and she weighs in on a lot of bottle bills around the country, and definitely she's tries to have as much influence as possible on the California system. She and I don't agree. You could say we're opposites. So I got a problem with that. There was a couple of environmental organizations. There was a guy from a fiberglass company here in the area, Macintosh or something like that. And the big one, the Goliath on the testimony was Dow Chemical out of Houston. And they wanted this study. And I'm thinking, are they so woke that they want this? I also had an epiphany this morning after being in California so many years. Are they doing this because they think they can manipulate the report? And I've seen that happen in California way too much. So I would be concerned about that, because wokeness only leads to brokenness. It's just on where it's at. It doesn't lead to their brokenness, but if it filters all the way down to our level,
Yeah.
it contributes to our brokenness.
Why would Dow Chemical want that done other than they might get incentive from the government if they do that test? Who
It
knows?
wants to know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It could be. I'm a lot of knowledge and experience with organizational psychology. It could be that there's some higher mid-level type management that are all woke and think that they should take this to it. As what I consider myself as a management scientist, I worked for a consulting company years ago that taught people how to run their businesses better. And it taught them everything they needed to know. Whether they could absorb all that, whether they could do all that, didn't matter. They at least got a survey of everything that they needed to know. If you can't do it, rent somebody, hire somebody to help you out. In this situation that we are in the United States, you have people that are now at the management table talking about DEI. They're talking about sustainability, and it's their view of sustainability. I came up with a new definition. Sustainability is not wasting money, especially mine, yours, and down here on the lower levels. So I'm going to see if I can confront Dow. I'm going to see if I can get through the switchboard and see what happens. And Phil at 11 will come back and maybe I'll have an answer. But I don't know right now. I met Hancock's aide, his district aide, at the local Northeast Tarrant County Republicans meeting, which
I think his first name is Cam. Cam?
No. I've got his card, and I'm going to get back to him. I just met him last week, but I'm hoping I can talk to him, and I would really like to know, where did this flippin' language come from? Okay? Now, this can be an indictment on you and all of us, not me. Okay? Why not me? I came here to see if the system would work. For years, I've been telling people in California, you got to go see your legislator every year because what they're doing in Sacramento is affecting your business, and you are getting no input, and it's still that way. No one in the industry talks to the legislature, and that way, whatever they do, they can't complain about. But I want to know where Kelly Hancock got this stuff. And next, we get to the bottle bill. That was introduced. That's SB 728. Johnson, a Democratic senator over in the Dallas area. And so that's the redemption and the, what do we call it, consortium model. And I mentioned the management training background. One thing I would do when I would train classes is teach people how to run meetings, how to balance the participation, how to get information out of people so that you can establish good goals. Well, in a consortium, what you're going to find out is the big companies try to take control, or dominant personalities take control. And that means it's not a good methodology. And they would control the fund that would be created. They would dictate standards on what type of containers could be used. This gets very, very controlling. They didn't, what I complained about in my testimony is they didn't address fraud. And I said, if you have Louisiana and New Mexico and Oklahoma that don't have bottle bills, people are going to go get that material, come back in, and steal your money. And I said, that wasn't addressed. And that needs to be addressed. And I covered some of the other issues.
I mean, don't they realize that possibility? I mean, does it dawn on them that people are going to come from their state?
You cannot assume motivation until you dig in, okay? I can tell you that because this bill was submitted by Johnson, a Democrat in the Senate, it was also submitted by Lujan, a Republican in the House. And Lujan's district is a crescent underneath San Antonio. And for any of you guys around here in Tarrant County, I try to stay involved with other Republicans and conservatives. When the battle for the House Speaker occurred here, we had the guy whose name I never remember elected as our Speaker of the House. He is a Republican. Earl, thank you. Burroughs got elected with all the Democrats voting for him and some Republicans. And I was told by all my friends and associates, we don't want him, we want Cook. So Cook was supposedly, in my mind, the conservative choice. Well, guess what Cook did? Cook signed on to the Lujan bill, along with 2 other House members, which are Democrats. And I swear to God, I'm going to push like hell to find out where that language came from, because it is so bad. It's 8 pages of nothing. And you can't create a program like that. Now, they also had the goal of, if you want a bottle bill, you know what it's going to do? It's going to clean up litter. Okay, it'll get off the street. Because people who want money will pick it up and go sell it. I'll take stuff at the end. I don't want to break up the.
Is it actually true
What?
that people will pick up the bottles?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Good question. Question was, is it true that people actually pick it up? In teaching the management course that I did, I talked about how to establish goals, and goals in a business need to contribute toward profitability. So the question, the big problem for government is if you establish a goal, you're not really going for profitability. What are you going that you could measure that, is beneficial? And so there was a couple years ago that drove around different states and tested and measured the litter. And California got cleaned up. I remember the first time I went up to Washington State for a recycling conference by the industry. I was amazed at how dirty and ugly it was with container litter everywhere. And the same way in Arizona, it's all over. It's here too, So it would help in that respect. But you got to remember, you're doing litter. That's the goal. And see how good it goes. This bill was going to have the consortium in charge. Their goal was 75% by 2035. If they pass this bill law and it gets started, why do you got to wait till 2035 to get 75%? I know, because of my experience, that's unreasonable. It should come up a lot higher. But it would also give money to cities to build their own recycling centers. Now, we have people in the recycling business. Show of hands. Who wants their city to run a recycling center? No hands. Okay, I agree with you. They're not going to do it well. But these are some of the ideas that were poured into this legislation. The other thing that I really disagree with is that the consortium is a nonprofit. They just started introducing some of that into the California system, and it's going to be a real mess if anybody bites that apple. I'm trying to say to people, you don't need to bite that apple. All you need is a recycling center to come in here, and if you need to pay them a little to cover costs, then do that. But it'll be a hell of a lot cheaper and a hell of a lot more effective. So here's where we're at. It doesn't appear that 728, Senate Bill 728 is moving, but I'll keep an eye on it. The Lujan bill was just heard last Thursday, and I have to do my research. My dog was dying over the weekend, so we dealt with that. But the one thing that I would emphasize to all of you that I have learned over my 34 years of involvement in California legislation and regulation is regulation does not acknowledge the constitutional protections. There's a guy, I think Philip Hamburger, who wrote a book, Is Administrative Law Constitutional? I can tell you based on my experience in California, no, and hell no. You get into that system as a business and you get eaten alive and you don't even know why or how. And the attorneys don't know why or how. Administrative law is not taught in school. Rarely. I'm an anomaly because when the regulations were being written for the California bottle bill, the guy writing the regulations for the state became a friend of mine, and he told me things. Like, bureaucracies have one function, and that is to grow. If I tie that to the California bottle bill and to what I just said about the Texas bottle bill, you have a problem with fraud. And in California, the bureaucracy, the enforcement bureaucracy, because of the way the law was written, and it was an additional amendment, 14597, I can quote this crap to you. But 14597 says, you should not buy bad material if you knew or should have known. Now that comes out of criminal law, and now you're putting it into administrative law. And not only that, you're giving it to people who have no clue on how to really interpret it. So what do? They set up the recyclers. They know the stuff is coming in. They've got surveillance by California Department of Justice. They see it. And the recycler comes in, and now I got you, you son of a bitch. That's a game from the book games people play. It's out of transactional analysis. And that's the form of psychology that I've studied for decades. So yes, these people set businesses up to fail and to attack them. And by allowing more fraud into the program, they get rewarded. They get a bigger budget. They get more enforcement people. They have their contracts with DOJ to do surveillance and everything. But when the material comes in and gets presented to a recycler who has no idea, do they actually protect the program and the fund by saying, don't buy that, we're confiscating it? No. They allow the recycler to buy it for months, maybe even a year, and then they go after them for more money than they'll ever be worth.
So there's no reconciliation for sometimes a year on what they send in?
Oh,
It takes a year sometimes to.
Darren wants to know about reconciliation of the process. Listen, the process is bad from the core, all right? Now we get into technicalities, but I'll just do it quickly. If you're in a probationary status, which you're gonna be for the first 2 years, they can put you out of business with a letter. Just a letter. And you can ask for a hearing, but they put you out of business first. And then, at one point in time, the regulations stated that the hearing had to be within 20 days. But the evil attorneys, for any of you who really understand officer of the court, which an attorney is, I need this explained to me, because how do these people get evil and say, we're just gonna screw these people every way we can. We're gonna make it take longer to get to adjudication. We're gonna stack the deck. We're gonna deal with propensity of the evidence. We're gonna lie about what constitutes violation and evidence. I've seen it all. So
remember, the root word of attorney is a term. If you look it up in the Black's Law Dictionary, is to take from someone to give to someone else.
okay, we just got a definition of attorney. I take from somebody to give to somebody else.
Yes.
Well, in this case, those attorneys take from the participants and put it in the state's coffers.
Sure.
And so yes, it's done. I have a little sign here. Where'd mine go? You know? Anyway,
You even get it for you, sign?
no, I'll do it. A few weeks ago, about a month ago, the national religious broadcasters were over at Grapevine for a big convention. And I went over there and I made a sign. One side says what a Salem broadcaster, the guy who's sitting in for Dennis Prager, Carl Jackson, he had a little thing that I came across on YouTube. This stuff comes by me. I don't know, God is sending it to me. He's punishing me. Anyway, Jackson in about 12, 15 minutes said, you fix California, you can fix the country. Now, California yesterday was the 5th largest economy in the world, and I hear
Fourth.
now Gavin Newsom is saying it's number 4. He passed Japan, okay? So yes, if you fix the biggest economy in our economy, I think you can have a big effect. He just didn't understand what he didn't understand. I could help. Anyway, so I passed that by some people. I didn't get a lot of response on that. But the other side is my favorite. I came up with this about 6 or 7 years ago after dealing with the abuse in California and some education from Glenn back. Glenn taught me about the progressive movement. I did some research. And he might be a little iffy on the research. I went to Wikipedia, but Wikipedia told me that the progressive movement started around the 1880s, and basically they are anti-capitalism. Therefore, they want to destroy capitalism. And so, to destroy capitalism, all you have to do is make things progressively worse. Make it implode on itself. Make it cost too much, which is what they're doing. And this is where I'll end. The progressive movement requires regulation. Regulation is authoritarian in nature. It is difficult to, to fight. It's difficult to combat because the deck is stacked. And so, coming here, and like I said, I'm trying to live out what I've been telling people back in California. We have a bottom-up system in government. So I have gone to my city people to deal with grievances. I'm now going to the House member and senator to deal with issues that I think I can help. And that would be to rewrite the Texas Administrative Procedures Act. I have read maybe 25% of it, but I can tell you it's not good. It came along about 1976. It's obviously written by attorneys, and if you want a good Administrative Procedures Act, it's got to be in everyday language so everybody understands it, because if they don't understand it, who gets to decide what it says? The bureaucracy.
It's
That's
a
not
use of
good.
it's a use of language also, so then they have us using their
Yeah.
language.
Let me give you an example. I call up this guy who's in charge of enforcement, and he wrote a memo in October of 2010. And I said, you can't say that. And I said, you are creating an underground regulation. Now, in California, they're the only one that has that definition. What is an underground regulation? It's where they create, in essence, the appearance of a regulation that does not exist, and they enforce it. And there are different ways they can do that. All those are against the rules. So you can't just put out a memo or a letter and create a regulation. But that's in fact what he was doing. And I said, you told people that they had to do this. And he said, well, no, actually, I told them that they should do that. I didn't tell them that they shall do that. Now, is that evil? Is that evil? What layman, what businessman is going to know the difference between shall and should? Shall is legal. Should is suggestive. Okay? But that's how evil he was. And so he got empowered because no blowback. But he did another one in May of 2011. And 2 years later, a mentor of mine, as a favor to me, and he didn't even tell me he was doing it. We'd obviously discussed this problem in our conversation. He submitted a petition. This guy was the head of the department who accepted those petitions and made determinations on those petitions. And he's a man, the first time I talked to him on the phone, said there were 3 kinds of people in regulation: good, bad, and evil. And in this agency, he's dealt with, he says, that's the evil, that's the evil. So this is what you've got to watch out. Human nature in a bureaucracy can get real stinky, real nasty. And these people did it. They stacked the deck against the participants in the program, and they used it to make themselves look good. Oh, all these recyclers? Oh, they're all crooks. They're all a-holes. They're bad. They're evil. And you just don't know how much of a problem we have, enforcing all this. Give us more money. Give us more tools. And the legislature listen to. And how do you prevent the legislature, any legislature, from imposing bad policy? This is what would fix California. If every policy committee, take for example, natural resources in the assembly, if they had an oversight hearing on every program they had, and the public could come and speak, and if they really did it correctly, and had them in different parts of the state, so different people could participate, not make them go to Sacramento, then it would expose the real problem in California. It would expose the abuse. And that's what I'm hoping for. And if I can use Texas to do that, good. But I will say this, I've been shocked with what's going on here with these two bills. I've been shocked. I thought we were more conservative. I talked to one of the guys over at Northeast Tarrant County Republicans. Well, did you kill the bill? Or no, did the senator kill the bill? That's not the issue. The issue is, does the system work? And if people think it's so simplistic to get a bill killed, I'll tell you, those expectations aren't going to work. We all have to be alert and vigilant. You guys deal with a lot of the court issues, but I will say this, there's tens of thousands more regulations than there are statutes covering civil penalties, criminal penalties. And remember, they're all making things progressively worse, and if you put it in a toxic bureaucracy, it's evil. And with that, I'll leave it. Questions, comments?
Remember that constitutional rights don't exist in an administrative court.
Okay, the comment we got is, remember that constitutional rights don't exist in an administrative court. And to that I would say, no contest. I have to agree, because I've seen it. I have successfully battled it on a few occasions, because at some point in time, you prey on the sympathies of these adjudicators, which tend to be lawyers within the same department. There's no separation of power. And it's everybody against the victim. But that is true. And it goes back to Hamburger's book, is administrative law legal? And the only way I can see it right now, and you guys can ponder on this, keep me informed over the weeks, is if an agency wants to create a regulation, that maybe they create that regulation, they do it with a decent process. That means that the regulated and the affected get to comment on, and those comments are acknowledged and dealt with in a process. For example, California says, if the state wants you to do something, but you have a better way, they have to use your way. And if they write something that's unclear, and you say it's unclear, you can give them a recommendation on how to clarify it. I tend not to want to do that, because what they're doing is, evil. Why support it? I don't figure it out themselves and just keep contradicting it. But those are the types of policies within the administrative procedures that can help protect it. Now, once we get past that and we create a regulation, let's say that regulation has an emergency status, a temporary status would be better. And in that temporary status, then it has to go up to the legislature, and the legislature has to vote on it. That could make a constitution.
The Constitution says that the House has to read the bill 3 consecutive days.
Well, we're dealing not just with the feds, we're dealing with every state. Every state has an Administrative Procedures Act, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, for those who are into technology, I have a vision. I get visions. The vision is with AI, and I played a little bit with AI. We go into AI and we say, go out and compare all the Administrative Procedures Act of every state and the Fed. And we get the best stuff. We also identify the most evil stuff. And then we fix it. We fix it. Make them change it. It's to serve us. And right now it's in an adversarial relationship. No, it needs to be a cooperative relationship. If we want something together through regulation, we should all be working on it together. But to put the state and the process of man's inhumanity towards man, running those bureaucracies, I think the system has to change. Anybody else?
So this act, it'll affect every business eventually?
The bottle bill?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know what it would be because it's, like I said,
Did it do that in California?
how did it affect the businesses in California? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay,
Affect all of them?
interesting question. So here comes an interesting answer. The first thing they did in California, they said, if we're going to mandate recycling, we have to address convenience. We have to make it available. We're charging a bounty on this stuff. We have to make it available to them. So the provision that they made was that the grocery stores would hire recycling centers to be in their parking lot. So that affected the grocery stores, also to a smaller extent, like the liquor stores, other people who sold beverages. Definitely affected the property owners of those places. It affected the trash industry, because if they pulled it out in their recycling, they could get paid for this stuff. It was a new source of revenue. So the answer is, it affected a whole lot of people. I will say this, since you brought it up, for years I have said that the California bottle bill is the lobbyist full employment act. I tell you, there are so many lobbyists involved when those bills come up. It is unbelievable, unbelievable. And it was around 2016, the governor, Jerry Brown, he hosted a meeting in his conference room in the Capitol. I heard about it. I got myself invited. I went there. There were 50 lobbyists in the room, 50 at least, and a few other interested people. I'm not a lobbyist. I was there and looking out for the recycling, which is what I do. But it turned out that what he wanted was he wanted people to agree to a change in the law that would have allowed the department, Cal Recycling, to add new container types. So let's just say you had a new container made out of molybdenum, a new element, and they could just add that without it going to the legislature. And fortunately, even though some of those lobbyists are pretty stupid, they weren't going to give up any legislative power to an agency to just adopt what they want. Did I answer it?
Yeah. I have one other thing. I wanted to propose to the group, I think it'd be beneficial, that maybe choose like 5 words that they use that's legal, and maybe the group look those words up. Kerry here, he talks about always defining everything, glossarize everything. And, he's so right in all that. Just the word person has so many definitions. Here's an example right here.